This has just been hypocrisy. Pure, spectacular hypocrisy is the most fitting description for this ridiculous motion. It is the most fitting description for the conduct of the Australian Greens. They embody hypocrisy. They signal it as a virtue. They claim they want Parliament to be a safe and respectful workplace. What they really mean is that no one must be allowed to disagree with or criticise them in any way, while they are free to say anything they please. This is because they see themselves as the epitome of virtue who can say or do nothing wrong. Their sense of entitlement and privilege is stunning. I wonder if they read the Sydney Morning Herald this morning. There's a very interesting story in that newspaper detailing the conduct of one Green senator in this very building that is anything but respectful. It reports the co-chair of the First People's Assembly of Victoria, Auntie Geraldine Atkinson, aged in her 70s, was left shaking and ill to the point of requiring medical attention after being verbally abused by the Green Senator Lydia Thorpe in a meeting in this building last year. It reports Senator Thorpe's former Chief of Staff was actually scared and appalled at his senator's conduct, which he described as by far one of the most unprofessional displays I have ever seen, that made him want the earth to swallow him whole. Miss Atkinson herself described Senator Thorpe's conduct as vicious and personal and abusive, saying she accused Miss Atkinson of being involved in corrupt Aboriginal organisations. And listening to the stunning entitlement and privilege in this, when Miss Atkinson attempted to respond to this abuse, Senator Thorpe spoke over her in a highly aggressive tone, repeatedly saying, "I am an Australian senator. You are in my meeting." This came from the same Green who, in estimates committee hearing, told a minister she was offended by being referred to as an Australian. The despicable behaviour on the streets of Melbourne just recently, with showing even blood on her hands and the Crown's foot on your throat. You may have accused me of a lot of things in this place, what you referred to, but I have never acted in the behaviour that one of your Green senator has behaved. And you talk about my behaviour and what I've said. You may call me a racist,
Senator Hanson,
but you meant to make up—
may I remind you to address the chair with your remarks, please?
Thank you, Madam President. The whole thing is that to be called racist is very easily thrown about and bandied around in our country these days. People must understand what the word racist means. It means that you believe your race to be superior to another. I have never, ever, ever stated myself to be superior to another. Ever. Criticism is not racism. To question anything is not racism.
Senator Hanson, please resume your seat. I did ask, resume your seat. I did request that senators be heard in silence, and I would reiterate that request once again. Thank you. Please continue, Senator Hanson.
Thank you very much. This is coming from the same Green senator, and I spoke about Senator Thorpe. She's not missing.
Order.
She's not here. Senator Thorpe's not here today. I wonder why. Maybe the newspaper
Senator
article.
Hanson,
So
Senator
anyway,
Hanson,
I question
Senator
why she's not
Hanson,
here.
Please resume your seat. Senator Kim, I'm not entertaining a point of order. I've asked all senators to listen in respectful silence. I'm not entertaining a point of order. I said that before. I've asked you, and I'm directing you, to listen in respectful silence. You may not agree with what's being said, but you were heard in silence, and I expect silence from the chamber. Thank you, Senator Whish-Wilson. Senator Whish-Wilson, please resume your seat. Senator Whish-Wilson, I am directing you to resume your seat. This is a very difficult matter, and it is not assisted by cheering, by clapping, by comments across the chamber from any senator. I'm going to ask Senator Hanson to continue, and I expect Senator Hanson to be heard in silence. Senator Hanson.
Thank you very much. As I said, Senator Thorpe said she was offended by being referred to as an Australian. This is coming from the same Green who happily collects a $211,000 a year salary for sitting in a parliament she has called illegitimate.
Senator Hanson, I remind you it is not appropriate to reflect on other senators. I would ask you to withdraw that. Senator Hanson, I'm asking you in the spirit of this debate to withdraw that comment.
The fact is, she said she
doesn't.
I just don't know. I made a couple
Senator
of sentences there. So which one would you
Senator
like me to
Hanson,
refer?
I am asking you not to reflect on a senator in any way, and I'm simply asking you to withdraw.
I shall withdraw.
Thank you, Senator Hanson. Please continue.
Thank you. Isn't it funny? The Greens hate the Crown, but they love accepting the currency the Queen's image is printed on. And then, of course, there is her fellow Green Senator, Baruki. This Green implies a tweet I posted in response to her disrespecting the late Queen Elizabeth II was racist and disrespectful, and called for Parliament to be made a safe and respectful workplace. Let me read out what her comments were. Condolences to those who knew the Queen. I cannot mourn the leader of a racist empire built on stolen lives, land and wealth of colonised peoples. We are reminded of the urgency of treaty with First Nations people, justice and reparations for British colonies and becoming a republic. But only a matter of a couple of months earlier, to stand in this place and swear allegiance to the Queen and the heirs. And yet this turns around and says, from a racist and a coloniser, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. So here we have this same, and this is the same, Greens senator who posted a tweet telling the former Prime Minister of Australia to just F off. Now, this is directed at all Greens. You disgust the majority of the Australian people. The Greens are hated, loathed and despised by most Australians, not only for their outrageous destructive policies, but also because the Greens always insult Australians as racist and destroyers of the environment. They wear this hypocrisy as a badge of honour to display to their sycophants and young Australians being misled during their formative school years by left-leaning ideologists. I'm so grateful to the Greens for this idiotic stunt. It's time we had a real discussion about what constitutes racism. I didn't refer to Senator Faruqi's race or imply she had inferior characteristics due to her race or country of origin. I only suggested that because she is so obviously unhappy in her adopted country with her privileged position, she should go back to Pakistan. I remind the Senate that Senator Thorpe yelled at me in this very chamber to go back where I came from. As far as the Greens, I want to hear her reply to comment to a couple of members in this chamber, male members, oh, you're just white privileged. As far as the Greens are concerned, it's okay for them to say this, but it's not acceptable for me to say it. To them, only white people, including their own parliamentary leaders, can be racist and must not be allowed to say this. This is blatant, reversed racism, and I'm calling it out. I'm not remotely intimidated by Greens' threats and their stunning hypocrisy. With their threats, you're not just trying to silence me, you're also trying to silence the many thousands of Australians who feel frightened or intimidated by the likes of your lot to have an opinion, let alone open their mouth. Your intimidation, calling someone a racist to shut them up, is not only pathetic to say the least, it is a misuse of the true meaning of the word. Criticism is not racism. I am fed up, and so are millions of other Australians, with people who use their skin colour to play the victim. From the day I was first elected, I have always fought for equality for all Australians regardless of race. At the last election, who stood second on the ticket to me in Queensland? A gentleman from India. My candidates have come from all different walks of background, all different races, but you're not interested in that. If I was a racist, I wouldn't have people from different cultural backgrounds. I do apologise for
Senator Hanson. Senator Hanson-Young, I said I wasn't entertaining points of order. This is a very difficult debate. I am listening very carefully, and I will ask senators to withdraw when I think they are out of order. Senator Hanson has not been doing that. She has been— order! This is not a debating point. Senator Hanson, that is not appropriate. I've asked— no, don't debate me. I've asked all senators to treat each other with respect, to have a respectful debate, one that's in silence. Please continue.
I remind the Greens that in exchange for the tremendous privilege of serving the Australian people in this chamber, they swore allegiance to the Queen and her successors. I remind them that it doesn't matter whether you think Australia should be a republic or that Australia only belongs to Indigenous people. Australia is a constitutional monarchy and belongs to every Australian, Indigenous or not. I reflect on Senator Wong's words about the racism that she feels she's been happened to her over the period of time and comments. I remember growing up in this country, the Italians used to say, oh, they call us a wog. I used to go to fish markets and the guys down there say, yeah, but you know what? We wore it as a badge of honour to be called a wog. That was the Australian way. But you know what? Those people got out and worked. They felt part of the country. If you ask a lot of these people now, and I see the comments on my Facebook page from people with regard to this matter actually, people said, we're proud, we came to this country to be Australians. They love this nation, they've worked hard, and they see themselves as Australians. And that's all I've ever spoken about in a lot of my speeches that I've ever said. When I mentioned in my maiden speech about swamped by Asians, it was a comment about questioning the immigration that we had coming to Australia. I'll put this on the record again, I've spoken about it many times, is that we had high numbers coming from Asia. And I wanted to address this to say that we've got to look at this, otherwise we would have an imbalance in our population time to come. And it's the same thing as what Japan— they're very parochial on who they allow into the country. Why shouldn't I have the right to say who should come to the country? Even we've had former leaders of this nation say we have the right to say who comes to our country. But when Senator Hanson says it in such a way, my God, it's racist. We have to have this debate on who comes to the country and why they should come here. I've never, stated that Senator Faruqi shouldn't be here. But I was appalled, and so were many other thousands, if not millions of people, appalled by her comments in regards to the Queen less than a day after her death. I won't stand by and let that be said. And I had my tweet, and it's about time that, yes, Senator Faruqi made comments that people like myself should be pulled up. Well, even when people like her make her comments, I will still have my say and I will pull them up as well. This is a place, the heart of our democracy in this nation, and we are here to represent the Australian people. And it's when we acknowledge and accept that we all have an opinion and a right to say things, that's when we come to the right decisions for the people of this nation. They are looking at us as the leaders of this nation. My comments were not made in the chamber, they were said on a tweet in retaliation to her comments. Everyone has the right to have a say, but as I see the way this country is going with a lot of other Australians, I see too much reverse racism. I see activists that are using their race and their colour to divide us as a nation, and I'll fight against that and I'll speak out against that. every step of the way as I possibly can. So it is very important to me, and I'm privileged to be here. But I refuse to acknowledge the fact that I have been made these racist comments constantly, and I say to people, you really, and as I said to you, understand what the word racist means. Your race to be superior to another. You tell me anything since 1996 or before that I have said that is actually racist. Right? Not criticism of policy, not criticism of immigration, nothing at all. Understand the meaning, what the word racist, because you are putting out a message to many Australians there. If they disagree with you, then call them a racist. Our skin colour may be different, but we are all human beings in this place, and we have a right to a decent way of life and decent standard of living. We have all worked hard and should enjoy this wonderful country that we have without the hatred that goes on. It's about working together who we are as a nation. So until that changes, what we have in this country, and if your threats are trying to silence me, it's not going to damn well happen. So until that changes, you're here to do a job. Do your job and represent all Australians with the dignity and respect they deserve. In closing, as I have explained myself, I will not retract what I've told Senator Faruqi or any other Australian that's come here for a new way of life to disrespect what is Australian to me, and she can do and go where what I've said. I make the offer also to take her to the airport.